Captain Elias Kane had never imagined that exploring a distant planet could be so quiet. The forest around him shimmered with strange colors, glowing softly like fireflies trapped in the leaves. The air was thick and humid, carrying scents that were unlike anything on Earth. He adjusted the strap of his exploration pack and scanned the ground for signs of life. Every step he took made a soft squelching sound against the spongy moss that covered the terrain. Strange plants twisted in all directions, their tendrils curling like they were trying to reach for him. Some emitted soft pulses of light, almost like they were breathing. Elias crouched beside a peculiar plant, its leaves shaped like fingers that seemed to move slightly when he reached toward them. He activated his scanner and watched as it displayed the plant's chemical makeup and potential medicinal properties. His mission was simple: document everything and survive. But as he moved deeper into the forest, a sudden scream cut through the stillness. It was high-pitched and frantic, unlike any sound he had ever heard. It made his skin tingle. Elias froze, scanning the trees around him. There was nothing visible at first, only shadows moving through the bioluminescent foliage. Then out of the corner of his eye he saw it, a small figure darting between the trees. At first he thought it was some alien animal, but the shape was too human-like. Before he could react, the figure burst into the clearing, stumbling and screaming. Elias caught his first glimpse of her. The alien girl was small, not much taller than a child, with skin that shimmered in shades of blue and violet. Her eyes were large, glimmering with an almost liquid light. She had multiple arms, 4 in total, which she flailed in panic as if trying to shake something from her body. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed erratically, a chaotic rhythm that reflected her fear and pain. "Human," she yelled in a voice that cracked like glass. "Make it stop, it itches." Then with a sudden burst of trust or desperation, she ran toward him. He stepped back quickly, careful not to scare her further, but she kept coming, nearly collapsing in front of him. Elias crouched and extended his hand. "Stay still," he said. She obeyed, trembling violently. He could see the problem now. Her skin was covered in tiny, crawling bumps, moving beneath her surface in a way that made his stomach twist. Small patches of her skin glowed brightly in pulses, each flicker a scream of discomfort. He had never seen anything like it. "What is happening to you?" he asked softly. The girl's glowing markings flickered faster, almost like they were trying to answer. He had no translator for her language, but her pain was clear. He pulled out his portable scanner, pointing it at her arm. A small holographic display lit up, showing microscopic creatures beneath the skin, feeding on chemical compounds he didn't recognize. They were parasites, of a kind humans had never encountered. Elias' mind raced. He had medical training, but nothing could have prepared him for alien biology this complex. He looked into her eyes, seeing the desperation there, and made a decision. "We'll fix this," he whispered. "I promise." He had some basic treatments prepared for alien biology: antiseptics, anti-inflammatory gels, and a few experimental compounds he had hoped never to use. He selected a soft, viscous gel that could soothe irritation. Using a long, gloved finger, he gently applied it to one of the patches. The girl screamed again, but this time it was different, more surprised than terrified. The movement of the parasites slowed in that small area, and her skin's glow dimmed slightly. Elias exhaled. "Good," he said softly. "We're making progress." It was strange, beautiful, and terrifying all at once. He continued working, slowly covering each affected area with the gel. She flinched every time, but gradually the flickering slowed. Elias spoke to her in calm, measured tones, knowing she might understand the intention even if she didn't understand the words. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, she sat back, exhausted, trembling from the effort. Her glow had returned to a steady, softer pulse, and the tiny bumps beneath her skin were nearly gone. She looked at him, and for the first time, Elias saw something like relief in her expression. "You," she said in a broken, hesitant voice. "Human help." She reached out one of her free arms and gently touched his hand. Her skin was warm, like sunlight filtered through water, and he felt a strange, calming energy from her. Elias realized that despite the fear, the alien girl was showing him trust, the most valuable thing he could earn on a foreign planet. He glanced around the clearing, noticing signs that others like her might be nearby. Small shelters made of woven plant fibers were partially hidden in the trees, and faint lights glimmered from inside. It was a village, he realized, and if this girl was suffering, so were the others. "We have work to do," he said. The girl nodded, her markings pulsing in agreement. Elias began moving carefully toward the village, the girl following him, staying close but cautious. Every step revealed more about the world he had stumbled into. Strange fruits hung from the trees, some glowing faintly. Vines twisted around each other like living ropes, and the air, thick and fragrant, carried distant sounds like a chorus of whispers from unseen creatures. He kept his eyes on the girl, studying her reactions. Every flicker of her glow, every subtle movement of her limbs told him something. She was still in pain, still wary, but she trusted him enough to lead him deeper into her world. That trust was fragile, but it was the key to everything. As they reached the edge of the village, Elias saw it in full. Hundreds of small structures, each glowing softly from within, clustered around the trunks of massive, luminous trees. The alien inhabitants peeked from their homes, watching him with wide eyes. Some made noises he couldn't identify. Some retreated quickly. He could feel the tension in the air, the fear of the unknown. Elias took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I'm here to help," he said again, hoping the tone of his voice carried more weight than the words themselves. The girl squeezed his hand, a silent reassurance. One of the villagers, larger and older than the girl, stepped forward. Its skin was darker, marked with patterns of gold that flickered softly. It regarded him cautiously, then looked at the girl, who nodded toward Elias. Slowly, the elder extended a hand, or what functioned as a hand to him, as if inviting him to prove himself. Elias knelt slightly, showing that he meant no harm. He gestured to his medical kit and then to the girl. The elder's glow pulsed thoughtfully, then relaxed a fraction. A silent agreement was made. He would be allowed to help. Over the next hour, Elias began working on other minor cases, applying his treatments and using his scanner to study the microscopic organisms under their skin. The villagers watched closely, fascinated by his methods. Slowly, understanding began to form between them, not through language, but through actions, intentions, and trust. The alien girl stayed close to him, occasionally helping guide his hand, pointing to areas he might have missed. Her markings glimmered in a rhythm that seemed almost like music, and for the first time, Elias felt a strange connection to a species so alien, yet so responsive to care and attention. As night fell, the forest lit up with a soft, natural glow. Bioluminescent insects flitted through the air, and the trees shone with faint pulses of light, casting long, dancing shadows. Elias looked around, realizing that he had entered a world untouched by human influence, yet one that now depended on human knowledge for survival. He knelt beside the girl, who had finally collapsed onto a soft bed of moss, exhausted but recovering. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we'll figure out the rest together." Here, in a world so different, humans still had a role, not as conquerors, but as helpers, innovators, and friends. And if he could save these lives, he could prove something fundamental: that humanity, even light years from home, could be a force for good. And somewhere deep in the jungle, the microscopic parasites stirred, unaware that a human had arrived to challenge them. Elias took a deep breath and prepared for the long night ahead, knowing that tomorrow would demand all his skill, all his courage, and all the empathy he could muster. But he wasn't afraid. For the first time on this distant planet, he felt at home. The sun rose slowly over the alien forest, casting soft, shimmering light across the village. Elias Kane awoke on the moss bed beside the alien girl, who was already stirring. Her skin shimmered gently in the morning light, the glow of her markings calm now, steady. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to say, "Are you ready?" Elias nodded, understanding that the day ahead would be challenging. He packed his medical kit carefully, double-checking the supplies he had brought for just such emergencies. Today, he realized, he would need more than simple treatment. One alien in pain was a tragedy, but a village suffering was a crisis. He glanced at the girl, who gestured toward the forest, urging him to follow. She moved with surprising grace, even after the ordeal of the previous day, and Elias realized she knew exactly where he needed to go. The village was already stirring. Small figures moved among the glowing homes, some peeking out to watch Elias. The alien girl led him toward one of the larger dwellings at the edge of the clearing. Inside, several of her species were gathered, their markings flickering nervously. Each of them bore signs of the infestation: the tiny bumps beneath the skin, the chaotic pulsing of their glow, the visible discomfort as they tried to scratch or shake whatever crawled beneath their surface. Elias knelt carefully on the floor, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. "I need to understand," he said softly, pointing to his scanner and then to their skin. The elder who had welcomed him yesterday stepped forward. Its gold markings pulsed thoughtfully, and it reached toward Elias with one arm. Elias gently took it, allowing the creature to guide his hand. The elder pressed one of its bumps, and the tiny glow beneath the skin flared briefly before fading. The scanner whirred as it analyzed the tissue. Elias leaned closer, watching the holographic display. There it was, millions of microscopic organisms burrowing just beneath the skin. They fed on chemical compounds unique to the aliens, compounds that seemed to be tied to their bioluminescence. Every flicker of color was connected to their life force, and the parasites disrupted it, causing pain, irritation, and fear. He turned to the girl who was watching him carefully. "I can help," he said, pointing to the scanner and then to himself, "but I need to learn about your biology first. I need to know what makes you strong and what the parasites cannot survive." She tilted her head and glowed softly, as if considering his words. Slowly, she led him through the village, pointing to each alien and guiding him as he scanned them one by one. The process was slow. Elias worked methodically, documenting each variation he found. Some aliens had thicker skin in certain areas, others had faster or slower pulses. He noted the differences, realizing that the solution would have to be precise, targeted, and carefully adapted for each individual. He also noticed patterns in the parasites' activity. They preferred certain areas, avoided others, and reacted to light, temperature, and chemical signals. After several hours, Elias finally sat back, exhausted but with a wealth of data collected. He reviewed the scans, comparing them with his knowledge of human medicine. It was clear that this was not a simple infection that could be treated with a single medicine. The parasites were intelligent in their own way, responding to the aliens' body chemistry and adapting to changes in their environment. If left unchecked, they could threaten the entire colony. Elias looked around the room at the anxious faces of the aliens. They were watching him, waiting for a plan. He took a deep breath. "We will need a combination," he explained, pointing to the scanner and then to various plants and compounds he had collected yesterday. "Some natural, some synthetic. Together we can drive the parasites away safely." The girl's markings pulsed brighter, and the elder nodded. It was a silent agreement to trust him. He began gathering the materials. Some of the glowing plants were crushed into pastes, others heated gently to release their properties. Elias mixed them with compounds from his kit, creating small doses he could apply carefully. He tested the mixtures on a small area of one alien's arm first, watching closely as the glow of the parasites flickered. Slowly, the irritation subsided. The alien exhaled a sound of relief, and the other villagers watched, hope sparking in their eyes. Encouraged, Elias worked systematically through the village. The girl helped, guiding him to those in greatest pain. Her markings pulsed in rhythm with his movements, almost like she was communicating encouragement. Together, they became a team, human ingenuity paired with alien intuition. By mid-afternoon, a pattern had emerged. Elias realized that the parasites were sensitive not just to the compounds, but to light and temperature. He suggested creating temporary shelters with controlled light and heat, where affected aliens could recover safely. The villagers followed his instructions, moving glowing fibers and using soft bioluminescent panels to create safe spaces. Elias applied his mixtures to each alien carefully, monitoring their reactions. The work was exhausting, but the results were undeniable. One by one, the aliens' glow returned to a steady rhythm, the bumps beneath their skin fading. Their movements became less frantic, their expressions calmer. Elias could see the relief spreading through the village like a wave. The alien girl sat beside him, her markings pulsing gently, a quiet smile on her lips. As evening approached, Elias realized he had only addressed part of the problem. While he had provided temporary relief and started a treatment, the parasites were still present in the environment. They bred quickly, hiding in the soil, the trees, and the water. If nothing was done, the village could be reinfected within days. He needed a long-term solution. He studied the scanner data again, noting the parasites' vulnerabilities. They avoided certain frequencies of light, could not survive extreme heat for long periods, and were repelled by specific chemical compounds. Elias began devising a plan to use these weaknesses to protect the entire village. It would require coordination, precision, and cooperation from the aliens, but he knew it was possible. Before he could act, the girl tugged at his sleeve, leading him to a small tree at the edge of the clearing. Its leaves glowed softly, and tiny creatures moved among its branches. She gestured toward them, then toward herself. Elias understood immediately. The parasites were not limited to the village. They were in the surrounding forest, and the aliens could not escape the environment. The problem was bigger than he had imagined. Elias took a deep breath, realizing the magnitude of the challenge. He would need to combine everything he knew about medicine, biology, and human ingenuity to create a solution that could protect the aliens without harming them or the ecosystem. It would not be easy, but he felt a surge of determination. He had faced dangerous situations before, but never one where success meant bridging the gap between species, science, and trust. The girl sat beside him, her markings glowing softly in the fading light. Elias placed his hand on hers, and for a moment the world seemed to quiet. No words were exchanged, yet understanding passed between them. They were allies, partners in a mission that could decide the fate of an entire species. Night fell, and the forest came alive with glowing insects and bioluminescent plants. Elias worked by the soft light, preparing mixtures and testing their effects on the parasites he had collected in small samples. The girl watched, fascinated, her glow pulsing in a gentle rhythm. He realized that she was learning from him as well, observing his methods and absorbing his approach. By midnight, Elias had made significant progress. He had identified the compounds that could safely weaken the parasites, the frequencies of light that disrupted their movement, and the environmental conditions that made them vulnerable. It was not a complete solution, but it was a foundation. Tomorrow, he would begin implementing the plan on a larger scale. He looked around the village, seeing the aliens resting in the shelters he had helped create. Their glow was steady, their expressions calm. The girl sat near him, her eyes blinking slowly. Elias felt a sense of satisfaction, tempered by the knowledge that the challenge was far from over. He made a promise to himself. He would not fail them. Humanity had a role to play in this distant world, not as conquerors or invaders, but as helpers, innovators, and protectors. And he would prove that humans, with their intelligence, empathy, and determination, could make a difference even in the most alien of worlds. As he rested for the night, Elias could hear the faint rustle of leaves, the soft hum of glowing insects, and the quiet breathing of the aliens around him. He felt a strange connection to this place, a sense that he was part of something larger than himself. Tomorrow, the real work would begin, and he was ready. For now, he allowed himself a moment of calm. The alien girl's hand brushed against his, and he felt a spark of trust that could not be broken. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, and humanity would show its strength not through weapons, but through knowledge, compassion, and courage. The morning light filtered through the glowing leaves of the alien forest, painting the village in soft shades of blue and violet. Elias Kane awoke to the gentle pulsing of bioluminescent plants and the quiet movements of the aliens around him. The girl from yesterday was already awake, sitting beside the small stream that ran through the village, her skin shimmering as she watched him. Elias knew today would be harder than yesterday. He had treated the symptoms, but the parasites remained in the environment, and the colony's survival depended on stopping them completely. He gathered his kit and followed the girl as she led him toward the edge of the village. She moved quickly, yet gracefully, darting between the glowing plants and hopping over soft moss. Elias noticed how naturally she navigated her world. Every step was confident, precise, as if she had an intimate knowledge of the environment that humans could only dream of. The girl paused near a tree, her hands brushing over the bark, and Elias realized she was communicating something important. He knelt beside her, pointing to the tree and then to his scanner, trying to understand her message. She gestured toward the trunk, then to the ground beneath it. Elias scanned the area and discovered small larvae, similar to the parasites affecting the aliens. The creatures were everywhere, hidden beneath the moss and in the roots of the trees. The realization hit him hard. The infestation was not limited to the village. If he did not act quickly, the entire colony could be overrun. He turned to the girl. "We need a plan," he said, using simple words and gestures. Her glow pulsed rapidly, almost as if she understood immediately. Elias began formulating a strategy. He would need to combine everything he had learned yesterday: the chemical treatments, the environmental controls, and the sensitivity of the parasites to light and heat. But implementing a colony-wide solution required coordination with the aliens, something he had yet to fully achieve. Elias approached the elder, the one who had trusted him first. It stepped forward, its golden markings flickering thoughtfully as it regarded him. Elias held up his kit and then pointed toward the village, then toward the forest. He gestured methodically, showing that he wanted to help the entire colony. Slowly, the elder extended its arms, and a group of aliens followed, forming a circle around him. Elias realized this was his chance to demonstrate that humans could lead through knowledge and collaboration. He began by organizing the aliens into small groups. Some would help distribute the treatments he had prepared, others would create safe shelters with controlled light and temperature, and a few would help him identify the areas most affected by the parasites. The girl moved among them, translating his gestures into a language of light and motion that the colony could understand. Within minutes, a system was in place. Elias moved quickly, applying treatments to the most affected areas first. The parasites reacted immediately, their movements slowing under the chemical compounds. The aliens exhaled small sounds of relief, their glow stabilizing. Elias could feel the hope in the air, a fragile but growing confidence that their suffering might end. He worked tirelessly, his hands steady, applying the mixture carefully to ensure it would not harm the aliens. By midday, the scale of the challenge became clear. The parasites were not only in the village but had spread across the forest. Elias realized that a localized solution would not be enough. He needed to create a protective barrier, something that would prevent the parasites from returning. He began experimenting with a combination of light frequencies and heat he had observed to disrupt their movement. Using reflective panels and bioluminescent fibers, he designed temporary barriers that could guide the parasites away from the colony. The girl assisted him, her markings pulsing in rhythm with his movements. She led him to the areas where the infestation was densest, showing him the hiding spots of the parasites. Elias marveled at her intuition, how naturally she understood the environment. Together, they set up the barriers, guiding the parasites into areas where they could be safely neutralized. The process was exhausting, but the results were immediate. The parasites fled from the controlled zones, unable to survive the combination of chemicals, light, and heat. As the day progressed, more aliens joined the effort. They carried materials, moved the reflective panels, and applied treatments under Elias' guidance. The girl darted between groups, her glow acting as a signal, encouraging and directing them. Elias realized that humans had something unique to offer, the ability to organize, to plan, and to solve problems systematically. While the aliens had instinct and knowledge of their world, his methods added a new dimension to their efforts. Despite the progress, challenges continued to arise. Some parasites adapted quickly, finding ways around the barriers. Elias adjusted the strategies, moving panels, increasing light intensity, and modifying the chemical mixtures. The aliens watched closely, learning from his methods, their markings pulsing with concentration and curiosity. Elias could see their trust in him deepening, a connection formed not through words, but through shared effort and understanding. By evening, the village began to stabilize. The majority of the parasites had been neutralized, and the aliens moved freely without discomfort. Elias allowed himself a brief moment to rest, sitting on a soft moss bed while the girl leaned against him. Her glow was gentle, a steady rhythm that conveyed gratitude and relief. He had never felt such a connection with another species, and he understood that this bond was essential for the success of his mission. As night fell, Elias continued working, setting up monitoring stations with his scanner to detect any remaining parasites. The aliens had adapted quickly, assisting him in maintaining the barriers and ensuring that the protective zones remained intact. Together, they had created a system that not only treated the immediate problem but also prevented future outbreaks. The girl sat beside him, her markings pulsing softly. Elias reached out, placing his hand over hers. She responded with a gentle glow, a silent acknowledgement of the partnership they had formed. In that moment, Elias understood that the true strength of humans was not just in technology or medicine, but in empathy, creativity, and the ability to inspire cooperation across species. As the forest glowed softly under the night sky, Elias reviewed the data from the scanner. The parasite population was decreasing steadily, and the protective barriers were holding. He felt a sense of accomplishment, tempered by the knowledge that vigilance would be required. The environment was dynamic and the parasites could adapt. But for now, the colony was safe and the aliens were beginning to trust him fully. Elias looked around at the glowing village, seeing the aliens moving freely, their expressions calmer, their bodies healthier. The girl's glow flickered gently, almost like laughter, and Elias felt a warmth in his chest. He realized that he had not only helped save lives, but had also created a bond that could last far beyond this mission. He stood and addressed the village, using gestures and the girl's guidance to communicate his message. He pointed to the scanner, to the barriers, and to the remaining parasites in the forest. Then he motioned toward the aliens, indicating that they could now work together to maintain the safety of their home. The villagers responded with a series of glows and movements, their cooperation evident. Elias smiled. Humanity had a role to play here, and he was fulfilling it. As he prepared to rest for the night, Elias reflected on the day's events. He had faced an enormous challenge, one that required patience, intelligence, and empathy. He had learned that humans could make a difference not through dominance, but through understanding, collaboration, and innovation. The girl leaned against him, her glow steady, and Elias felt a quiet satisfaction. They had faced the threat together and had emerged stronger. The night passed peacefully, the forest alive with glowing plants and the soft hum of bioluminescent insects. Elias kept watch, monitoring the barriers and the remaining parasites. The girl slept beside him, her markings dim but steady. He realized that trust, once earned, was a powerful tool. Humans could use knowledge and empathy to forge connections that transcended language and species, and that bond could save lives. By morning, the colony was stable. Elias had set up long-term monitoring systems and trained the aliens to maintain the barriers and apply treatments as needed. The girl moved confidently among her people, guiding them and sharing what she had learned from him. Elias observed with pride, knowing that the humans' influence had created a sustainable solution. He stood at the edge of the village, looking out at the glowing forest, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The infestation had been controlled and the colony was safe. But he knew this was only the beginning. The planet held many secrets, and humanity's role would continue to be one of guidance, innovation, and compassion. Elias turned to the girl, who smiled and gestured toward the forest. Together, they would continue to explore, to learn, and to protect. The parasites were only one challenge, and the galaxy held countless others. But humans had a gift, the ability to think, to adapt, and to inspire cooperation. And with that gift, Elias knew they could face anything. He took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of life around him, and prepared for the next phase of their mission. The aliens had survived the infestation, but the partnership between human and alien had just begun. Together, they would face whatever came next, proving that humanity's ingenuity and empathy could shine even in the most alien of worlds. The morning light spilled into the alien village, making the colors of the glowing plants shimmer like water. Elias Kane stood at the edge of the clearing, looking out at the forest. The parasite problem had been reduced dramatically in the village, but the larger forest ecosystem was still full of them. If nothing was done, the aliens could be reinfected within days. Today, Elias knew he needed a long-term, large-scale solution. He gathered the girl, who had become his guide and companion. Her markings pulsed brightly as if sensing his determination. Elias began explaining his plan through gestures and drawings in the dirt, showing how barriers, light, and chemical compounds could work together to protect the colony. The girl watched closely, then led him through the village to gather volunteers. The aliens had learned quickly over the past days, and they now understood the importance of following his instructions. Elias began by organizing the work into stages. The first stage was to create zones in the forest that would be free of parasites. Using reflective panels and controlled light sources, they could drive the parasites out of these areas. The second stage was to treat the soil and water with safe chemical compounds, ones that weakened the parasites without harming the aliens or plants. The third stage would be to establish a monitoring system, using both the aliens' natural abilities and his scanners to detect new infestations before they could spread. The girl led him to the first area in need of treatment. The ground was soft and damp, and small parasites could be seen moving just beneath the surface. Elias knelt, placing small sensors in the soil which emitted controlled pulses of light and heat. The parasites began to retreat immediately, trying to escape the new environment. Elias smiled. It worked exactly as he had hoped. The aliens worked alongside him, carrying reflective panels and moving them into place according to his instructions. Elias marveled at their speed and understanding. In just a few hours, a large portion of the forest had been prepared for treatment. He applied the chemical compounds carefully, watching the parasites' reaction on his scanner. Slowly, the numbers decreased. Elias felt a surge of satisfaction but knew there was still much to do. The girl ran ahead, guiding him to the next area. The forest here was denser, the glow of the plants dimmer under the thick canopy. Parasites were more numerous and harder to reach. Elias realized he needed a new strategy. He instructed the aliens to create pathways using bioluminescent panels, drawing the parasites away from the densest areas. He then treated the paths with his compounds, forcing the parasites into safe zones where they could be neutralized without harming the environment. As the day wore on, Elias noticed that the aliens were beginning to mimic his methods. They were careful and precise, just as he had shown them. Some even began to experiment, adjusting the panels and light pulses slightly to improve efficiency. Elias realized that he had not only helped them fight the parasites, but had also taught them a new way to use their environment strategically. It was a true partnership between human ingenuity and alien instinct. By midday, most of the forest around the village had been treated. Elias paused to catch his breath and reviewed the scanner data. The parasite population had dropped significantly, and the protective zones were holding. But he noticed small clusters of parasites that had managed to escape the treatment. He studied their movement patterns and realized they were seeking refuge in areas with unusual soil chemistry. This meant that the solution had to be adaptive, capable of responding to the parasites' strategies. He called the girl over and gestured to the clusters. She understood immediately, leading a team of aliens to help him treat the new zones. Elias adjusted the light frequencies and chemical concentrations to match the parasites' behavior. Slowly but surely, the clusters were neutralized. He realized that persistence and adaptability were key, two qualities humans had that could complement the aliens' natural abilities. As evening approached, the forest was almost completely cleared of parasites. Elias and the girl stood on a small hill overlooking the glowing village below. The aliens moved freely among the trees, their skin glowing evenly, no signs of irritation or discomfort. Elias felt a deep sense of accomplishment. The colony was safe, and they now had the knowledge and tools to maintain that safety themselves. But there was one final step. Elias had prepared a network of monitoring stations throughout the forest, using scanners and light sensors to detect any new parasites. The aliens needed to learn how to use them. He spent hours demonstrating the process, showing them how to read the signals and respond quickly. The girl helped translate his instructions through gestures and light pulses, and soon a team of aliens was capable of maintaining the system independently. Elias watched with pride. The night fell quietly, the forest glowing softly under the bioluminescent plants. Elias sat beside the girl, both of them resting after a long day. "We did it," he whispered, though she could not understand his words. She glowed gently in response, a simple acknowledgement that they had succeeded together. Elias reflected on the day's work. Humanity had a unique role in the universe, he realized. The combination of empathy, intelligence, and problem-solving could make a difference even in the most alien environments. He had used his knowledge to save lives, but he had also shown the aliens how to protect themselves in the future. That was the true measure of success, teaching others to be self-sufficient. He looked around at the village, seeing the aliens resting peacefully. Their trust in him was complete now, and he felt a quiet satisfaction in that bond. The girl leaned against him, her glow steady and calm. Elias knew that this relationship was not only important for the immediate problem, but could also serve as a foundation for future collaboration. The night was long, but Elias stayed alert, monitoring the scanners and the remaining zones. Occasionally, small groups of parasites appeared, but the combination of light, heat, and chemical treatment kept them in check. Elias realized that vigilance was necessary, but the systems he had put in place would allow the aliens to manage the problem themselves. Humanity had helped, but it had also empowered the colony to thrive independently. By morning, the forest was quiet and safe. Elias reviewed the data one last time, confirming that the parasite population had been reduced to a manageable level. The village was secure, and the protective systems were operational. Elias felt a sense of completion. He had faced one of the most difficult challenges of his career and succeeded through a combination of knowledge, adaptability, and cooperation. The girl ran to him, her glow brighter than ever. Elias smiled and knelt to her level. She reached out, brushing his hand gently with one of hers. It was a gesture of gratitude, trust, and partnership. Elias felt a warmth in his chest, realizing that he had formed a connection that transcended language, culture, and even species. He stood and looked around the village, seeing the aliens moving freely, their glow steady and even. The systems he had put in place would ensure their continued safety, but more importantly, the aliens had learned to work together in new ways. Elias felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity could be a force for good, even in the most unfamiliar worlds, if it acted with intelligence, empathy, and care. The girl led him to the edge of the village, pointing toward the forest beyond. Elias understood that there were still many mysteries to uncover, many challenges to face. The parasites had been controlled, but the planet held countless secrets. He felt excitement, not fear. Humans had a role here, and he was ready to embrace it. As the sun rose higher, Elias packed his equipment and prepared for the next stage of exploration. The village was safe, the aliens were thriving, and the bond he had formed with the girl and her people was stronger than ever. He knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity's ability to think, adapt, and inspire cooperation could change entire worlds, and he was living proof of that potential. He took one last look at the glowing village, feeling a sense of pride and responsibility. The girl's hand rested on his, her glow steady and warm. Elias smiled. Together they had faced a threat that seemed insurmountable, and together they had triumphed. Humanity's ingenuity, combined with alien instinct and cooperation, had saved a colony, and the universe was only beginning to see what humans could do. Elias felt the pulse of life around him, the rhythm of the forest, and the quiet hum of the aliens as they continued their daily routines. He realized that trust and cooperation were more powerful than any weapon, more enduring than any technology. Humans could inspire, teach, and protect, leaving a lasting impact wherever they went. As he prepared to rest, Elias knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. There were more mysteries to uncover, more species to help, and more lessons to learn. But for now, the village was safe, the aliens were thriving, and the bond between human and alien had never been stronger. He looked down at the girl, who glowed softly beside him, and whispered, "We did it, together." She responded with a gentle pulse, a silent affirmation that their partnership would endure. Elias knew that this was only the beginning of their adventures. Humanity had a place in the universe, not as conquerors, but as allies, innovators, and friends. And as the forest shimmered with life, Elias felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The parasites had been defeated, the colony was safe, and humanity's potential had been realized in this small corner of the galaxy. Tomorrow, new challenges would arise, but Elias was ready. Together with knowledge, courage, and empathy, humans could face anything. The morning sun rose slowly over the alien forest, bathing the village in soft, shimmering light. Elias Kane stood at the edge of the clearing, looking out at the thriving colony. The parasites had been defeated, their numbers reduced to near zero, and the protective systems he had implemented were working perfectly. The aliens moved freely now, their glowing markings steady and calm. Children ran and played under the trees, their laughter a series of soft, musical pulses. It was a scene of life renewed, of hope restored. The girl ran toward him, her skin glowing brightly in the morning light. She stopped before him, her markings pulsing rhythmically, a silent smile on her lips. Elias knelt, placing a hand gently on hers. She returned the gesture, and for a moment they shared a quiet understanding that went beyond words. Together they had faced danger, worked tirelessly, and saved an entire colony. The bond they had formed was unbreakable, a symbol of trust between human and alien. Elias turned to the village. The elder approached, its golden markings flickering thoughtfully. It stopped before him, raising one arm in a gesture of respect and gratitude. Elias returned the gesture, bowing slightly. The elder nodded, signaling that he was now an honored ally of the colony. Elias felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His mission had begun as exploration, but it had become something far greater, a bridge between worlds. As the day progressed, Elias helped the aliens finalize their new systems. He taught them how to maintain the barriers, monitor the environment, and respond quickly to any signs of parasites returning. The girl moved among them, translating his instructions into her people's language of light and gesture. Elias watched with pride as the colony embraced the knowledge he shared. Their cooperation, combined with their natural abilities, ensured that the village would remain safe long after he left. But Elias knew their world was part of a larger galaxy, and the parasites might not be the only threat. While the colony was safe, the forest beyond held secrets he had not yet discovered. Scans revealed subtle traces of similar organisms elsewhere on the planet, hidden in areas the aliens rarely visited. It was a reminder that vigilance and knowledge were essential, that their work was never truly finished. He turned to the girl. "There may be more," he said softly, using simple gestures. She tilted her head and pulsed her glow in agreement. Together they walked toward the edge of the forest, examining the surrounding areas. Elias used his scanner to collect data, mapping potential hotspots where parasites or other threats might emerge. The girl pointed out unusual formations, guiding him with an instinct born of living in the forest her whole life. Together, they formed a perfect team, human and alien, intuition and intelligence working in harmony. By afternoon, Elias had a plan. They would create an extended network of protective zones, not just around the village, but across the surrounding forest. The zones would use light, heat, and chemical deterrents to keep parasites at bay while allowing the natural ecosystem to thrive. Elias trained a team of aliens to monitor and adjust the systems, ensuring that the colony could handle future threats independently. It was the final step in ensuring long-term safety and stability. The girl stayed close, assisting him and encouraging the others. Elias noticed how much she had learned in just a few days, the way she understood patterns, adjusted treatments, and guided her people with confidence. She had grown into a natural leader, and he knew that she would continue to protect her colony long after he was gone. As evening fell, the village gathered around a central clearing. Elias stood with the girl beside him, watching the glowing patterns of the aliens as they moved gracefully through the clearing. The elder approached again, this time bringing a small, carved symbol made from the glowing fibers of a tree. It handed the symbol to Elias, who understood it as a gift of honor and gratitude. He accepted it humbly, feeling the weight of the gesture. It was more than thanks. It was acknowledgement that he had become part of their story. The girl pressed close to him, her glow brightening. Elias smiled and knelt to meet her level. She reached out, brushing his hand with one of hers. It was a silent promise that their partnership, their bond, would endure beyond this mission. Elias realized that in saving this colony, he had also gained a friend, a guide, and a symbol of what humanity could achieve when guided by empathy and intelligence. Night fell and the forest shimmered under the glow of bioluminescent plants. Elias and the girl walked through the village, observing the peaceful activity of the aliens. He marveled at how they had adapted, how their fear had been replaced by confidence and trust. The parasite threat was no longer a source of terror. It had become a challenge they could face with knowledge and cooperation. Elias found a quiet spot atop a small hill overlooking the village. He sat, the girl beside him, her glow steady and warm. He reviewed the scanner data one last time, confirming that the colony was safe and the protective systems were functioning optimally. The forest pulsed with life, the glow of the plants and the aliens blending into a symphony of light. Elias felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He spoke softly to the girl. "Your people are safe now. You have the knowledge and strength to protect them." She blinked slowly, her glow pulsing in agreement. He could see pride in her markings, a reflection of the bond they had forged and the trust they had built together. As he watched the forest, Elias realized that humanity's role in the universe extended far beyond exploration or survival. Humans had the ability to teach, to inspire, and to protect. Intelligence and empathy were tools that could change worlds, save lives, and create bonds that transcended species. He had seen it firsthand here in a glowing alien village on a distant planet, where trust and cooperation had triumphed over fear and danger. Suddenly his scanner beeped softly, a faint signal from beyond the forest. Elias frowned, analyzing the data. It appeared to be another anomaly, something similar to the parasite threat but more complex. He looked at the girl, who tilted her head, her glow flickering in curiosity and concern. Elias realized that their work might not be done, that the galaxy held many more challenges and humanity's potential had only begun to be tested. He stood, the girl following his lead. "We may have more to do," he said, his voice calm but resolute. She pulsed brightly in response, ready to face whatever came next. Together they would explore, learn, and protect. Humanity's ingenuity and empathy were not limited to one world. They were a force that could shine across the stars. Elias looked back at the village one last time before turning toward the forest. The aliens were safe, their trust in him complete. He had proven that humans could make a difference without dominance or violence, using knowledge, creativity, and compassion. The girl ran ahead, leading him into the glowing forest, her markings a beacon of guidance. As they moved deeper into the forest, Elias felt a renewed sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast and full of unknowns, but he was ready. Humanity had a role to play, not as conquerors, but as allies, innovators, and protectors. Wherever there were species in need, wherever there were challenges too great to face alone, humans could make a difference. And he would be part of that mission, one planet at a time. The girl stopped briefly, turning to Elias. Her glow was bright, steady, and confident. He nodded to her, acknowledging the bond they shared. Together they would face the next challenge, ready to protect life and inspire hope. As the stars began to appear in the alien sky, Elias felt the weight of the day, the effort, and the victories. Yet he felt no exhaustion, only determination. The colony was safe, the village thriving, and humanity's influence had been a force for good. The girl's glow reflected in his eyes, a reminder that trust, knowledge, and courage could overcome any threat. They reached a high clearing overlooking the forest and the village below. Elias paused, taking in the glowing landscape. The aliens moved freely, playing, working, and living without fear. The girl stood beside him, her glow a constant rhythm of life and energy. Elias realized that in saving this colony, he had witnessed the very best of humanity, the ability to help, to understand, and to inspire. A soft breeze rustled the glowing leaves, and Elias knew that new adventures awaited. The galaxy was vast, full of life, and full of challenges that would test every skill, every ounce of courage, and every measure of empathy. But he was ready. Humanity had proven itself here, and it could do so again and again. He turned to the girl and smiled. Together they would continue. Together they would face whatever the universe had in store. And humanity, with its intelligence, ingenuity, and compassion, would shine brightly among the stars. For the first time in a long while, Elias felt the full weight of hope. The colony was safe, the parasites defeated, and a new chapter awaited. And as he looked at the glowing forest, the peaceful village, and the girl who had become his ally, he knew one truth clearly. Humans could make a difference, and their story was only beginning. The stars above twinkled, the forest below pulsed with life, and humanity's potential stretched farther than he had ever imagined. And somewhere beyond the horizon, new adventures were already waiting.